Okay, we are live. Good evening, everyone. My name is Reverend Brandon Baxter, and I am one of the pastors here at West End United Methodist Church. And I'm getting a little ring on my mic there. So, Rob, if you could check that for me, that would be great. It is good to see everyone this evening for our second in this series called Centering Your Week. Okay, well, we'll just keep going then. And hopefully we won't get too much feedback. It is good to see everyone here. As you can see, we are still adjusting to our technology up here in this space. Of course, all of last year, we were doing things in a completely virtual way, and now we're trying to transition to hybrid. And so we are still learning as we go each week. And I hope you'll keep joining us each Wednesday night for Centering your week here at West End. And we're going to continue to follow this pattern of word and wisdom and wonder and way. And last week we had Pastor Carol here, and she helped unpack some of the ways that she approaches the word or scripture for use in worship in her preparation each week for Sunday mornings. This week is our first time to get to wisdom. And wisdom each month is going to be when I spend some time, or one of the other pastors spends some time, interviewing someone. Sometimes it'll be somebody from our church community. Sometimes it might be a theologian or somebody from the larger Nashville community, or even from somewhere else in the country. But tonight we are going to start with our own Mac Pirkle here. I want to welcome Mac today. So,
thank you.
Mac, thanks for being here. Mac is a longtime member of West End United Methodist Church.
Lifetime.
A lifetime member.
Baptized here.
So I guess we can say that's a long time.
That
right?
is a long time,
Yeah,
all right.
So I actually wanted to start out by asking you a little bit about your connection to West End. But first of all, I want to tell people why I'm interviewing you today, and that's because you are one of the people that sits behind the board, so to speak, and helps all of our virtual worship and technology move and go. And throughout the course of this last year, for those of you that have participated in any of our worship services online, we have heard comment after comment about the different ways we've adapted that online experience, and then also things like beautiful views of the windows, for instance, and that kind of stuff. And Mac is one of the persons that helps, I would say, produce our service now. And so I wanted to invite Mac to talk about this and to talk about the work that he and the rest of our multimedia ministry team do. And also wanted to give people a chance to hear how we're doing what it is that we are doing and adapting in the ways that we're adapting. But first of all, I just want to know a little bit about you, Mac. And you already said you're a lifetime member of West End, so that's your connection here. So just unpack that a little more for us.
Well, I was born here, baptized here, grew up in the church, went to the youth group, went on mission trips. Well, mission trips are fairly local in those days, but and then left the church when I went off to college and really didn't return until into my adulthood and really more regularly once my family started. And my wife, Karen, who grew up Catholic, came to this church with me, and we've really kind of found our way through here and really become part of the fabric of the church throughout that time.
Great. Now tell me a little bit about, I know your work outside of the church, outside of your volunteer work, is sort of related to some of the stuff we're doing here. So tell the folks watching kind of what you do in your everyday life.
Yeah, well, I have a small communications company called Creative Communications, and we do primarily video, but also do some design work, and we also do some consulting for organizations in transition. And part of the work that we do when we work on those transitions for organizations with vision and mission and core values goes back to me being introduced to Tom Bandy here at this church when we did the Ruach and Renewal process. Tom Bandy was a consultant that came here from Texas that really, I guess, kind of kickstarted, initiated us into that huge effort of Ruach and Renewal. I was very involved in that and helped part of the leadership team of that Ruach and Renewal effort to develop the vision and mission of the church, and I was really taken by that. So we used some of the things that Tom Bandy shared with us during that time period and some things that an organization called the Design Shop uses. So we do some consulting there, but primarily our work is video. We do work for corporate clients, TriStar hospitals, and Pinnacle Bank, but we also do a lot of work that's cause-oriented in the nonprofit world, from let's see what some of them are. The Family Safety Center, which helps people who are victims of abuse. We do a lot of work for an organization called Begin Anew. We do a lot of work for an organization called Tennessee Voices for Children. So we do a lot of that kind of work, and have really found a niche there and enjoy doing that work.
That's great. That's great. Well, of course, a lot of people now recognize that we have a lot of technology at the church, and we are using a lot of technology to do a lot of things. Prior to the pandemic, I'm not sure that especially a lot of our everyday members that came and participated in the church in person, really realized how much technology we were already doing. I think people know that now. But in a lot of ways, when things shifted suddenly in 2020, we were a little ahead of the curve in certain aspects because of a lot of the work that you and the multimedia ministry team had already done in preparation for us for quite some time. So can you tell me a little bit about some of the origins of the multimedia ministry team and some of the groundwork that had already been laid long before we ended up in this sort of hybrid virtual world we're in?
Well, if we go back over a decade, my company, Creative Communications, used to produce videos for all of the annual capital campaigns, primarily with interviews and things like that. And we also did an interview with Michael when he joined, an interview with Carol when she joined as our senior pastors. And so we were doing some of that. Rob Haywood, who's here with us tonight, is part of the media ministry team and was also part of that effort as well. And I think as we kind of were doing some of that, it was not translating elsewhere throughout the church. We were kind of doing that. And then somewhere around 2008 or so, we bought a camera, a Panasonic camera, and we had a tripod. We had some microphones so that we could kind of help participate in that process from the church's standpoint, not just our company. And so we would put a single camera on a tripod in the balcony, in the center of the balcony, down at the rail, and we would use that camera to just film the sermon. Then we would begin to film sometimes the entire service, but we didn't really do a lot of editing at that point. So that continued for a while, and then at some point the ministry table, as they began to discuss with the trustees about a capital campaign, they really felt like we needed more to do with that capital campaign. We needed a real center for that campaign, but Byron Trauger, who was the head of the ministry table, came to me and said, you know what, we need some kind of ministry that's more organized. So the ministry table initiated that with us, and myself and Rob Haywood and Heath Jones started out as kind of the triumvirate of that group to kind of say, okay, let's see what that means. And honestly, we had visions even then in 2008 for ultimately what we're doing now. We also thought that it would just catch on fire and all, that we'd get a lot of work that people would want to do in Sunday school classes and things. That was a much slower developing avenue of the media. But in any case, by the time the capital campaign came around, we had begun to envision more of what we wanted anyway. So that capital campaign then centered around us doing some very fundamental work at the church, like rewiring the sanctuary, rewiring or wiring all of the rooms where we have Sunday school classes and kids, so media could be accessible to everyone. Because at the time, I think we were just using, I'm looking at Rob, he's nodding, we had a cart and a TV and a DVD.
Yeah.
So people could watch somebody who's presenting some curriculum on it. That's how the children's ministry would show curriculum as well. So we really felt like we needed an internal network. So, to make this long story short, ultimately we really added into the capital campaign this notion of lifting up the technology, including 4 remote cameras in the sanctuary, new microphones, sound systems, We wired into this room here where we are, into McWhorter Hall. So we really tried to connect everything around the church so that we would grow into the network, if you will. And we created a control room downstairs that would allow us to operate all of that, to operate the remote cameras, et cetera, as well as edit. So we then began to film the services with all 4 cameras, full services, and we could excerpt a sermon if we wanted to, and loading all of that up onto the website, trying to get it on the website by Sunday afternoon. And I think that's kind of the level where we were by the time the pandemic hit. And we had a small, I think, but loyal group of people who kind of watched, but nothing like what happened when the pandemic hit.
Right. And it has continued to evolve.
Yes.
And speaking of that too, I forgot to mention that those of you that are watching tonight, if you're watching live, as Mac's talking about all this, if you have any questions about the multimedia ministry team or anything about how we do this, I am monitoring the chat on Facebook and also on live stream, so feel free to add comments there. I will remind you too, if you're on live stream, it usually makes you log in, so you have to either create an account or log in with a Facebook page to do that. So if you have trouble figuring that out, go over to our Facebook page, because the chat there is wide open and it's really easy to use.
I want to go back to one thing.
Yeah.
I don't want this to sound to people who are members of this church that this was kind of outside in. It's just all about technology. That was really not it. Our real interest from the beginning was that we felt like if we used media in the right way, it could contribute to the vision and mission of the church. It might be able to reach more people. It might be able to reach more young people because media in the digital world was growing so much. But I really felt like we sensed that there was something missing, that there could be a ministry here that could help all of the pastors here and others. So I just want everybody to know that this was rooted in something that we all felt deeply about from a spiritual standpoint, because we felt like there was something that not just that we could offer, but that media itself could offer in terms of taking it to more people in a different way.
And that's perfect, because that was my next question was going to be, before we get into like where we've been the last couple of years, I was going to ask how the multimedia team has sort of imagined technology as a form of ministry. You know, what's different about media ministry as opposed to just creating media content, that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, that's a large question, you know, in terms of how churches approach that differently. I think originally, from our point of view, we felt like there was something missing in the classrooms. I've done a lot of work with the United Methodist Publishing House and helped them create digital children's curriculum ever since the early 2000s, and did several large children's curriculum as a result of that. And we felt like that could transfer, that we might have a central data bank, if you will, of material that people could access from any classroom, which is why we equipped every classroom with a mini iPad so that people could really do that. I think the dream was a little ahead of where the reality was for our church, but that technology is all there and in place for that, and it's still there. And I think there's still room to explore that, where the ministry itself can grow out of ideas and energy that people have got. I also think we envisioned more activity from youth in the church, and that hasn't happened perhaps because of our lack of ability to outreach appropriately or not, but I think it's going forward another big opportunity for our church, for the young people here to get hold of it and understand what can happen. And that's maybe a future development and some equipment issues. But in any case, so at this point, I think that ministry that can be offered by media is happening now mostly because of what we're doing with the service. Once the pandemic hit, I think everybody's focus shifted a little bit. Nobody's in the building. What are we going to do with the service? And I think because of that, we got a certain momentum and power from that we were blessed that we were ready for it. We were able to do it the first Sunday we needed it. And I think it changed our point of view as well. Now we felt some responsibility by not just, I would say, not just witnessing the events that are happening in the service, but trying to find a way for somebody who's in their living room or in their bedroom or in their playroom, wherever, that they could actually have a worship experience. So that shift of point of view meant a lot to us, and we had to kind of figure that out slowly but surely. And I think the feedback kind of affirms that you can have a worship service. It's different, but you can have impact through that laptop,
Right.
telephone, whatever it is.
And so it's really kind of changed the way the team sort of sees worship then, and especially online worship. It's kind of unpacked that a bit. Right?
Yeah. Well, it changed our focus, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We were not as concerned long term about what we're going to do about classrooms. We've eventually had to refocus on that thanks to your desire to make sure that happens appropriately. But I think we just kind of said, you know what? This is our singular focus for a while. Let's do this the best we can. And it's evolved since we started as well. I mean, since the pandemic hit.
Yeah. So what are some of the adaptations that have changed the online worship experience over time? What did you start to lean into that we weren't doing before? I kind of say, I've been talking to people about this a lot over the last year and said, kind of pre-pandemic, I think some of the ministers, I think we didn't think proactively enough about the online worship side either. We thought of it sort of as a nice appendage or something, right?
Right.
And now we realize that it in and of itself is a full ministry and is an absolutely integral part of our worship. So how has that shifted? What did that change about what you were doing, what you've incorporated, how it feels to sort of direct us even at times? I mean, I was on to preach that first week that we had to go completely virtual, and I remember walking out there and thinking, this feels like doing a TV show.
Yes, it is a lot like that.
Completely different.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the church went from a primary focus at, a larger kind of effort with the 11 o'clock service, and we've got an 8:45 service, separate choirs. Everything shifted, and now there is only one primary thing, and it's not live. And I think the church had to adapt, and there wasn't panic, but there was some urgency about it. We can't lose that. We can't lose our community as a church. We've got to find a way to make sure that we can hold that together. And I think we felt that. So then it's about, you just turn the cameras on and you begin to say, cameras and audio, because all of this works together. You begin to say, where are we? Can we hear everything like we want to? Can we see what we want to? And then eventually for me, the room, that sanctuary became an unbelievable set.
Mm-hmm.
It's got beautiful stuff. And when you're there, your focus is this way. Your focus is here. Yet part of what you cherish about the building is actually up here or in a little corner there. And I love the ceiling. So we started to explore that as a way to, once you get into a song or an anthem and the mood is set, we can go away and enhance that mood or offer a visual lift to what you're watching. But it even gets to, how quick do you make the zoom, or how quick or slow do you pan from left to right, based on really what's the mood in the building.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing we should point out too, you mentioned kind of directing you all. You all had to shift because once we did that, you all are used to looking where you go, right?
Right up front.
Right. So we've got 3 cameras. One's at center, one is on the stage left, audience right column, and the other one is on the stage right, audience left column. So you all needed to now vary where you're looking. So when you did a sermon in the first part of this time when we had nobody in the church, you're looking here, or you look here, or you look there. And we generally don't know in the control room where you're going to look. So we get to know you differently as we kind of follow or sense where you're going, or let you go here, and then we'll catch up to the camera so that they don't feel like we're chasing you. But So all of those things began to play into how do we offer that experience to the viewing audience, if you will. We could bring them closer for the first time. If you're sitting in the back pew, you're distant as the person doing the sermon, but now I'm right here. I can see you from the chest up, or I can see you in a wide shot, and we can cut in between those shots.
Mm-hmm. It has been a learning experience for all of us.
Oh my gosh, it sure has.
And it continues to be that, because as I think about that too, as we've had transition now back to sort of being hybrid in a sense with people back in the sanctuary, it's been having to learn how to maintain some of the things we learned about the virtual experience, and yet also grafting that on top of the live experience too. And that's been a new challenge.
Well, you know, we kind of borrowed from pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
We don't, you know, you're not required now to pay attention to all three cameras. We let you play the live audience that's there, and we still cut the angles, but you're not looking directly at them anymore. So I think we wanted to respect the live audience because, you know, we're back into to having people in the sanctuary, but we also didn't want to remove ourselves from the fact that we're still providing that service in somebody's home. So we still continue to play with what we're looking at as things go on.
Right.
And we repeat a lot of things. You know, there are things in each service that repeats. It's that ritual, it's that repetition. So, you know, when we go to pray and right before the Lord's Prayer, we're looking at a reverse shot of the cross. Mm-hmm. And we do that every time. And so there are things that are ritualistic even about that, you know, so that we go return, things are going to be, a lot of the shots are going to look the same.
Right. Great. Well, I know you brought some clips, right?
Yes, we did. We have some clips.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to, multimedia, you have to communicate to Chase. Chase, bring up the very first one, and I'm not sure I'm going to know all of these because I left my cheat sheet at home. But this is really just a very, very quick clip of, this is in March of 2020, an empty sanctuary. This is what it looked like in March of 2020. We did have 4 people with choirs. Notice that no masks, so we weren't doing masks at the time. And then I think the next one is going to be, I think it's Palm Sunday maybe? Mm-hmm.
Forgiven and reconciled people, let us exchange those signs of reconciliation and love.
Passing
the peace of Christ.
Oh, passing
be
the
with
peace,
you.
that's right.
So this is a passing of the peace during the pandemic.
Peace of Christ be with you.
The peace of Christ be with you, and also with you.
Peace be with you.
The peace of Christ be with you.
Peace of Christ be with you.
And also with you.
I'll say that was so important coming, you know, when we were in that time where we were not connected to each other in an in-person way or even physical way at all.
Right.
People just loved that aspect of the service.
Yeah, and this brings up our transition into Zoom work.
Yeah.
That's not Zoom, but I think one of the ways to keep the community together was to give the community the opportunity to participate, and this is participation. You know, you can't pass the peace in an empty sanctuary, but we ask you all to film some of these things at home, and I found it incredibly meaningful myself, you know, just to see that, and then some of the Zoom children's choir songs. We've got a clip of that too, but this was important throughout, and we did a lot of those. They became repetitive as well as we kind of ran out of steam, but you know, you just face these realities as they come up, but this was very meaningful, and I think that was like in April, so that happened pretty quickly, April of 2020.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, you talk about running out of, I mean, one of the things I think we continue to face nonstop during this time as things continue to shift and move is we do run out of steam at times, right?
Oh,
like
absolutely.
people are willing to jump in and do something for a while, and then it gets hard. And then sometimes we have to change what we're doing, and we may have to pivot to I mean, we're in here tonight because my vision for this fall was that we would be back to Wednesday night dinners, and we would have at least a decent crowd in person and online. And then with the change in the Delta variant and all that, it's kind of shifted us again. So we're still going to do it this way, but it's a little more online than it is hybrid right now.
Right. It's a learning process.
But yeah, but we're just continuing to learn constantly.
Yeah, absolutely. So Chase, play the next clip. I think this one might be Palm Sunday.
Okay.
And what we tried to do was to mimic the experience you had. So at the end of this is the end of the service, we took the entire thing to black.
Okay.
Or it could have been Good Friday, I can't remember. So you see, she's taking the lights, the candles out, so we're going to try to help the audience at home understand that we're trying to prepare in Holy Week, and as she does this, the lights begin to come down gradually. You can kind of see that happening now.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a technological tenebrae,
That's right,
service.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you can see there's a slow pan out, slow zoom out as we take the entire room to black, and by the time we just give the audience a little bit of time, and then we just take it to black.
And we wouldn't have really been thinking at that level pre-pandemic, right? I mean,
Absolutely not.
about the view in that way.
No, because in pre-pandemic we would have witnessed what's happening in the sanctuary.
Right.
That's right. Chase, do the next one. I think the next one is Easter, and this is what Carol said. I think that's it. We'll see. No, this is an example of windows, right?
Oh yes.
Yes, you talked about windows. See, and quite often this will tie into what's being said or talked about, either in the lyric of a song or a prayer or something that's happening. So this was Easter morning. Here she is starting her sermon.
Seated, if you're standing in your homes.
Can we get more volume there, Chase?
Well, this is the most unusual Easter I've ever experienced. And I imagine it's the same for you. Who would have thought that there would come a day when the most loving thing to do, the most faithful thing to do as a follower of Christ, the right thing to do, would be to stay home on Easter Sunday? What would my grandmother think? And yet here we are. It is absolutely the most loving and faithful thing we can do today, to celebrate Easter in our homes, to honor our leaders' request that we social distance and that we take care of one another by staying apart on this Easter Sunday.
So that's
Now we've known for several
a tough
weeks
day, I think,
that
you know,
we
for
would
a
most
church
likely
like
be
ours, where
celebrating Easter
we just loved
separately,
Easter so much.
at
And see,
least
here
in
she is
body.
talking directly to us.
So
Yeah.
I wonder what your expectations have been like.
Well, this reminds me
What do you
too, as
think
I
it would
listened to
feel
her
like
talk,
on Easter
we
morning
met just yesterday as a staff
hear
to
the
talk
good
about, okay,
news
so
of Christ's
we need to talk again
resurrection?
about what our values are coming out of this time, and what's going to shape where we put our energy and our money and our time as we enter 2022, let's say, because like we said, so much has changed and we're still learning so
Right.
much. And one of the values, one of the things that we said had emerged during this time that we didn't think about in the same way before was thinking about the common good in general. You know, like, and she's talking about that there, like the most faithful thing we could do right now is stay at home. You know,
Right.
and that's been a hard thing for us during this time, to balance what we think is good and right to do for our congregation, also what's good and right to do for our community, and to set an example as people that are on screen all the time and being broadcast and all of that. So I really appreciate that clip for a number of reasons, because it makes me realize how much this has shifted our sense of priority as well.
It's also interesting watching this on a big screen, seeing how big when you come in on that close-up, I mean, Carol is really big.
That's right.
I mean, she is right there.
Yeah.
Chase, let's see what the next clip is. This is the Candlelight Service.
Yes.
Oh, we really had to think about this one because of not being there, and it is such a popular, wonderful service. So this is the choir and lights that Carol has lit down the aisle. That's Carol in the center. This is a reverse shot now. We're seeing the lights down the aisle. And then this is to me a really powerful example of how we used our community as we then began to let them light their own candles.
Yeah.
As we're singing Silent Night. I will admit, when I watched this yesterday, it made me cry. It was just, there was just something about hearing that song and watching people do this, knowing what we've been through.
Right.
It was very moving to me.
I think I'm in this video now that I
Yes,
that I
you are.
remember.
You're coming up in about 2 clips, I think.
Yeah, I think my kids. I think we started with a dark room and lit up our room with our candles.
You did, actually. And you know, it becomes so individual, and just so personal, and their faces. I just love that. This child is so precious. This child wants that candle.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I love. Yes, she does. She does kind of want to put it in her face.
Yes.
But you know, I love what you say about how it's individual as well. It's sort of like we talk about being parts of the body of Christ and parts of a body of Christ. And I think as I look back at this, it's a reminder of that we demonstrated that through our adaptations and our technology and things like that in ways that we couldn't have imagined.
There you are.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, you know, I think we struggled with that as we got further and further into the pandemic and started thinking hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
Do you give this up?
Right.
Now, we made a choice to not include that because of offering the primary focus to be on the live event.
Mm-hmm.
But for some of us, that was a tough choice to make because of how much it had meant to all of us. But as you mentioned earlier, you know, you get a little burned out, and that
right.
Keeping that going and fresh is difficult when you have to have something. You would like to have something new every single Sunday.
That's right.
Chase, let's go to the next clip and see what that is. How much time do we have?
Oh, we've got 10 more minutes here, and I do have a question from online too that I'm going to ask you in a minute. But
okay,
we'll
good.
go
Let's see what the
through a
next
couple
clip
clips
is. Oh yes.
Oh yes.
We got to remind ourselves of this.
Yeah.
This was Matt Phelps put a lot of work into this, but
Yes.
it was still this was hard to give up too, because this was so great.
Well, and now tonight, for instance, the children's choir is downstairs, and they're doing choir hybrid now. So they've got some people on the televisions that you've installed during the capital campaign, now equipped with Zoom equipment though, and they're doing hybrid choir. So they got some people in the room and some at home still. In this time, and so we continue to adapt and change and figure out ways to do this thing called church in the midst of this. And so hopefully we'll be seeing the kids singing some this year again. Maybe they'll be able to come in person, or maybe it'll be online again. Who knows?
All right, let's go straight to the next one, Chase. See, this is, I put this in here just as an example of one of the things that many of us don't notice in the church. We know it's there. Mm-hmm. Have you ever read this before? And we used these windows. There's several of them around the church. We can only access, I think, really 2 of them with good shots, so you see them more. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. It's got a message itself, and we do use that sometimes in the opening prelude, voluntary. Let's go to the next one too, Chase. So this is another window, obviously, but another thing that I love about the church, and other people have commented on it, we're going to come up and we're going to not avoid the light, but we're going to want to see the light, the sconces that are there vertically. It's just so gorgeous. And this is a long zoom out, so we get to see that entire wall. And I, for one, love these views of the church myself.
Well, and that is, that's a refrain I've heard time and again that people say, I have seen things that I never noticed before,
right?
Even though I've worshiped there sometimes my whole life, right?
Right.
And that's been a beautiful thing about getting all of our members onto the live stream sometimes, right? We do want you to come back to church sometimes too, but that has been a beautiful, beautiful aspect of this.
Let me know if we need to stop, but I'll just continue.
No,
until
go
you
for
tell
it.
me to stop. All right,
Yeah,
Chase,
go
let's
for
go to the next one. This may be a... This is another window. I'm trying to remember what this was, but I love that one too. That's just such a gorgeous look.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember what else. And look at that heart there above Charity with those flames coming out of that heart.
You know, as
So
I
gorgeous.
watch this too, I'm reminded that one of the things we heard from some of our colleagues in ministry was there's, like you said, the space itself lent itself to feeling a little more divine, so to speak, online. You know, if we were just worshiping, let's say, in the four-story theater or an auditorium, it might not have that same impact, but that it actually felt like entering a different space, even though people were at home.
I don't think there's any question
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
I mean, the space becomes one of the main characters in the worship service as we do it visually, because you cannot ignore. Divine is right. I mean, the inspiration that they had when they built it, those incredible windows, you know, and it provides color in the room that you're just not going to find in a space that, for instance, really doesn't have a lot of windows. So
Yeah.
we were blessed with something that you really don't get tired of looking at. All right, let's see what's next, Chase. I think this next one will show us another thing that you see, but you don't. Well, that's not it. Okay, this one, this is a transition we've just done 3 or 4 times.
Uh-huh.
Superimposing Christ coming out of the center of the cross.
Mm-hmm.
This also brings up the fact that we've added,
Yes, another adaptation, right?
that's right, we added words, we've added text, we've added lyrics, prayers. So this really, once we added ProPresenter, which is the technology that we use, that one, it required more people, another skill level for people, but it also provided for people at home, you know, you're not now saying, hold on, I'll bring up the lyrics on the phone, we'll watch over that. You had to really think if you wanted to sing along and couldn't get past the first verse,
Right.
like I am in most of the hymn. So I think that has been a huge help for people as well.
Mm-hmm. Did you want to look for one more clip? Was
Yeah,
there one more you're looking for?
No, I was looking down here to see what time it was and to look at something else. There we go. This is something we're all aware of, but I mean, look at that woodwork.
Yeah.
So I've got the ability to zoom in anywhere, and I get fascinated. Look at that, it's just so incredible. The organ is such a huge part of our music ministry, and you know, to me it just provides a certain elegance. And look at the vertical lines. It's got such great composition when you and then as you move, you create some motion for the music as well. So I just love what happens when we can, you know, you're combining a visual and an audio in a way that's really nice. And quite often we end up coming to a choir who's already singing.
Well, I want to, since we've got just a few minutes left, I do want to offer you this question from Chris Gerald, who's watching. And she wanted to know, and this is something that is good for everybody to know, how far back do you keep the recordings, and do they continue to be available to see online?
I was on, what's her name?
Chris,
I was online the last couple of days, and on the website, I got back all the way to 2012, so I know it goes back that far, because I was trying to orient myself to when we would go back, and you can do that. I turned it on and I stumbled on a Michael Williams sermon that just took my heart, really did. So there's some beautiful stuff in the archives, and if you go to the media area of the website and look at sermons, services and sermons, you can go way, way back. As I recall, the last page was number 43. So there's 43 pages of archived sermons and services in there. It's a wonderful, wonderful asset for the church.
and then as stuff streams too online, often it's saved there as well. So, you know, other ways you can go and find things. If you've missed worship for a couple weeks, you can always also find them on the Facebook page, for instance, and on the live stream page that's also linked from the website. But our team is so good at getting all this stuff on the website quickly that that's one of the best places to look for all of it. And they're trying to keep up with cataloging and recording all the new things that we might be doing online now, as online things continue to change and expand.
One other thing, I really want to mention this. Okay, I can't remember how many years back we go, Rob. I guess ever since we've been doing full services, we have video of baptisms.
That's right.
We film the service, we film the baptism, and then we go in after the service and we edit and we pull those baptisms out. So if you've had a child baptized here in certainly the last several years, there is a video of the baptism of your child. So let us know. We're trying to now gear ourselves up to getting that organized and kind of up to speed so that we can get that out to people. Even though it may have been a couple of years, it's still a valuable memory for everybody.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
The only other thing I want to do too, I want to talk about the workflow a little bit.
Sure, go for it.
And let me just get it because I don't want to make sure I get everybody's last name right. But anyway, the team right now, we've mentioned Heath and Rob and myself. Chase Benson, who is our lead staff person that's over the multimedia, is there with us all the time. We've got a new staff person as well, Zach Helton, who has just joined this summer, and he is now with us as well and is absorbing things very quickly. Ian Quillen does the live sound up in the balcony every day, and then Ed Zinkowitz does the pro presenter at times as well. So our workflow really is that we've got 3 people in the control room, 3 people in the control room, 1 person live doing sound in the sanctuary. And then as we do that, Heath is our watchdog. So he is watching. If we're not online, he's banging us on the text saying, "Hold it, I don't see you on Facebook yet," or if something is awry, he's kind of telling us what's going on as he listens to it. And then Heath takes, when we're finished, we edit. The edit itself is saved to the desktop. Heath comes in after the fact every Sunday and loads those services up onto the web page. He does that with special events as well that we cover. And so we've got 4 positions that we have, 4 seats we have people in every Sunday. And some of that rotates. We've luckily got now somebody to fill all seats in both services. But if anybody's interested in learning how to do this, let us know. We'd be happy to
we can always
incorporate you.
Yes, we can always use more help.
It is a commitment, though.
Yeah, but we can always use more help in this arena these days. So, well,
Right.
Mac, there's so much more we could have talked about, and that 45 minutes went by so quickly because this is so really amazing what the team has prepared us for, has been doing, and continues to think about for the future. So I hope some people now, when they're around, know who you are and recognize you and get to know you and the rest of the multimedia team, and can also thank you for all the good work you've done because you all have been just an indispensable part of everything we've been doing the last 2 years.
Well, it's a common phrase now, but it does take a village, and our team has been great. Heath, as a matter of fact, texted us, I think it was right after the service, Rob, this past Sunday, and there were 2 or 3 comments from older women who were talking about how they love the fact that they can be at home and watch the service and how meaningful that was.
Yeah. Phenomenal. Well, thanks so much. It was good to see everyone tonight. I hope you'll join us again next week, either here in the 4-Story Theater or online. We're going to have a guest, Alan Whitley, who is a member at Glendale United Methodist Church. He is also a certified counselor, and he also does some spiritual direction work as well with people. And he's going to come and talk some to us about the tradition of Vespers and evening prayer. And he's going to lead us through some practices that can help us in our prayer life, especially at the end of the day. So I hope you'll join us for that when we get to some of the wonder that we're going to have with Alan. And so thanks again, Mac, and we'll see everybody again next week.